What's up guys? It is I, Rocket Dwarf. The Dwarf Rocket. Now I know what you might be thinking. There is no such thing as a rocket launcher dwarf. And why the f are you not standing on an ammo crate? Well, it's quite simple really. It's because we're gonna go space launching. Now I hope you guys brought yourselves a crash helmet cause we're gonna go full GTA San Andreas mode jetpacking and packing jets, so someone better call Elon Musk and let him know that SpaceX will have no choice but to file for bankruptcy as we go full fucking nuclear Cape Canaveral mode on your asses as we launch the ultimate DAWI fucking space program.
Oi! Oi! Aha! That's a good start, Dory! I think it's this way. It never stood a chance. Where a DAWI stands, he endures! See? Sometimes magic needs a little steel. It's a big place, isn't it? More rats than we can fight in one go, 𝒮𝔤𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔥. Just look at that bridge! What a fine piece of workmanship! The tide of 𝒮𝔴𝔞𝔤𝔤𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔡. If only Okri could see me! Feels almost like home, apart from the rat droppings and umgat stonework. Well, that's that. I could use a celebratory drink. And I know just the place. There's a little tavern in Altdorf's old quarter. Oi! 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 Can we go now? I'm sick of this place! Chase Grimnir's fury, 𝒮𝔴𝔞𝔤𝔤𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔡. His axe shone silver in the dark, his brow was wrathful bold. Ha ha! If only Okri could see me now! It's a long way down. Mind you, it's a long way down for them too. Oi! 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 That was fun, but we'd best be gone now. Grimnir spoke and the mountain shook, and the battle �𝔬𝔤𝔤𝔢𝔯𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔤𝔤𝔢𝔮𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬 These stairs go up. Now this brings a smile as wide as Cousin Okri's axe to my face. Oi, 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 oi. Get out of here!
What is up, guys? PK here, and in today's video I'm gonna be teaching you guys all about the Breaker of Iron, the Ironbreaker. You see, in order to learn the Ironbreaker, first you must learn how to break the iron. But before you can learn how to break the iron, first you must learn how to bend the iron. Almost there. Okay, I got it. Almost got it. Okay, so maybe I can't break the iron either, okay? That's not important. I'm not a goddamn Ironbreaker main, okay? I'm an elf main. Doesn't matter. Let's move on. See, the single most important thing to remember when you're playing the Ironbreaker It's only gonna hurt for a moment, Loner. What were you saying about 𝒮𝔴𝔞𝔤𝔢𝔯𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔡? What were you saying? Don't worry, it'll all be over soon. Anyways, let's get serious. Now, so much to talk about. Now, first things first, let's cover all of his talents. Now, obviously, you got your standard basic temporary HP talents. We got Stagger, we got Kills, and we got Heal Share. Generally speaking, you're going to be going for Stagger, although you could make a case for killing blows if you're using certain weapons. But in nearly all cases with the Ironbreaker, you're going to be going for Rock Breaker. Now, Under Pressure is only for builds that utilize straight fire weapons. Now, essentially what that talent does is it starts out by increasing the attack speed but reducing the damage, and then slowly but surely the damage is gonna be increased as the attack speed is reduced. Now, the good effect here is that if you do it with the straight fire gun here, like not the pistols but the flamethrower, right? It's that you still keep the attack speed whilst also gaining the increased damage, because the attack speed with the charge up attack isn't based off of your sort of overcharge. Like if I kept doing like this, it's gonna go slower and slower, but with the charge up attack you can keep the attack speed while still getting the extra damage. But we're not going to be using the flamethrower because I'm not a huge fan of the Drake fire weapons. I love them on paper, but I just don't think they're that strong on high difficulties. But if you're using them on Legend and below, and even on Cata, if you enjoy the weapons, then by all means. Moving on, we got Blood of Grimnir. This is pretty much your go-to talent for level 10. Now, a case could be made for Rune Edge Shield, but it's one of those things where I feel like we gotta separate the two different versions of Ironbreaker, the quick play version and the serious version. Now, we're gonna be focusing on the quick play version here, because the thing is, with the serious version where you're using shielded weapons, you're gonna get left behind in quick play most of the time. That is sort of the major issue I found with the Ironbreaker, and one of the reasons I don't particularly enjoy playing him in quick play is simply because I feel like the value he provides is so hard to actually utilize, because even if you're holding a position, people are just going to run straight past you and ignore you. Whereas the other shielded classes, such as the Grail Knight or the Foot Knight, they have sort of a bit more mobility. They have other ways to sort of utilize the shielded weapons themselves that the Ironbreaker doesn't quite in the same capacity. Level 15, Bulwark, Smiter, and Enhanced Power. This is obviously going to depend on your build, but personally, for what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to be going with Enhanced Power. Then for level 20 talents, we got Vengeance. You're pretty much never going to be using this unless you're sort of off meta building for attack speed, but no, just don't. Then we got Tunnel Fighter, which essentially cuts the cooldown in half of your passive, which completely absorbs one hit every 20 seconds, potentially. So you could get overhead by a Chaos Warrior and take 0 damage. Now on paper, this sounds really, really great, but in practice, you should never get hit twice every 20 seconds. So yeah. So pretty much you're always going to be getting Grumnald's Curse, and there's a bunch of reasons why you're going to be getting that. Like, first of all, it is the only variety of your level 20 talents that also protects you from Disablers. You see, when it's off cooldown, boom, just an automatic save, just like that. Didn't even have to do anything, and that's the only one of the talents that can actually save you from Disablers. Assassins, Leeches, even getting grabbed by like a Chaos Spawn will still, as soon as your Grumnald's Curse, Grumnald's Armor comes off cooldown, it's gonna push the enemy minion back, and essentially it's a get out of jail free card every 20 seconds, which is pretty goddamn strong. Now, you're already very tanky, so you don't really need to have the cooldown of Grumnald's Armor in order to sustain yourself, at least you shouldn't. So, by that logic, you're already very tanky, you don't really need the extra damage reduction, and so Grumnald's Curse being the only thing here that really saves you from Disablers, I would say this is the single most important talent on the Ironbreaker, by far the strongest, makes for some really amazing clutch moments. And the great thing about it is it's automatic, you don't even have to think about it, it just works, it just does it, right? I mean, sometimes I'll get grabbed by a Strangler and oh shit, I'm fucked, and then I realize, oh wait, no I wasn't, right? I'll forget about it, and it just it works its own magic. As for the level 25 talents, you got DAWI Defiance. I'm pretty much never going to be running this, at least I don't know of any instance where I would be running it. Maybe you enjoy the talent, that's fine. Again, I'm not an Ironbreaker main, so take everything you hear with a grain of salt. But in my personal analysis, I would never be going for DAWI Defiance. The Rolling Mountain and Miner's Rhythm are the two I'm usually going to be going for, depending on the situation. Miner's Rhythm giving you a 40% extra stamina recovery for 2 seconds every time you just charge a heavy attack and actually hit something with it. That's pretty strong, but the Rolling Mountain most of the time is what I would be going for. Now, the great thing about the Rolling Mountain is, unlike its counterpart on the Battle Wizard, Fires from Ash, killing a burning enemy reduced the cooldown of Firewall by 3 seconds. Seems like a very similar talent, but Fires from Ash has a cooldown timer, which means it can only trigger once, then there's half a second wait, then it can trigger again. Whereas with the Ironbreaker and the Rolling Mountain, it can trigger as many times as you want it to, and that has the added effect of allowing you to restore your ultimate's cooldown really quickly if you have a horde of enemies that's large enough. Boom. For that reason, I think it's the strongest talent. As for the level 30 talent, I think all 3 talents have their use. Booming Taunt increases the radius of the taunt by 15% and the duration by an extra 5 seconds. I think this is the one you're going to be using the least amount of times. Then you got 𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔢𝔯𝒮𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔞𝔡, increasing your essentially in the same area that you're taunting. You're also going to be increasing the power, like giving your teammates a buff that gives them 20% extra power for the same duration as the actual taunt, which is 10 seconds. So any ally within that circle when you're taunting is going to get that 20% extra power buff. And then my personal favorite, 𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔢𝔮𝔢𝔮𝔮𝔢𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮 is because it used to be the case, if I recall correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the talents would actually stagger a boss, even if only one of them was actually taunting it, right? So as you can see here, that was my passive. This does nothing. This does nothing. However, 𝒮𝔮𝔲𝔢𝔮𝔢𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮𝔮 a couple of reasons. Of course, there's the fact that you can actually taunt the boss and keep your teammates safe. That's one aspect. There's a couple of other aspects, right? There's the fact that you can do things like that, which of course you can also do with the ranged weapon of the day, which is going to be the Trollhammer Torpedo. And there's actually a third, just because we're at it anyways here. That's for the ultimate Minotaur. Boom. Killed itself. Just pathetic Minotaur. So, for those reasons, this is my favorite build. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2. That's how I like to play him. Now, as for melee and ranged weapons, really, melee weapon-wise, I would say you can justify all the 4 hammer weapons, as well as the shield and axe. But in quick play, again, I'd say that the shielded weapons, unless you have a pre-made team, you're often gonna feel like you're getting left behind. One thing I will note, though, with the shielded weapon that I feel like is worth sort of visualizing real quick, is how you actually push with, I mean, you already know how push works, I hope, because I've talked about that before, but essentially you have a sphere around you, which you should be able to see now with a cone in it, and that cone, sort of the tip of that cone, has, if you imagine a triangle there, that is your push angle, right? So the wider that is, the bigger your push is. Now, what that essentially means is that if you have a push angle that's large enough, and it's 180 degrees by default on Barden's shielded weapons, which you can of course add 30 or 60% to, what that means is essentially it can be a really good idea, if you're surrounded, to jump and push straight downwards. Now the jump is in order to increase the distance between the center of you as a target, because you're essentially a dot. At the end of the day, you're a dot. And from that dot, where the cone sort of extends from, the higher you get, the wider the push, if that makes sense. So by jumping and then pushing straight down, you can actually perform a 360-degree push, which can really get you out of trouble. But But in my opinion, the two weapons I'd be going for in quick play are either the cockhammer or the dual hammers. Personally, I prefer the dual hammers simply for the added mobility. I'd be running crit chance, block cost, twist lane, trollhammer torpedo, power versus armor, crit chance, scrounger, health, block cost, bark skin on the necklace, power versus chaos, attack speed, and either decanter or proxy, or actually also concoction. I think all three work. Because concoction can really give you those like 2 trollhammer torpedo shots that can just annihilate a patrol in no time. And as for the trinket, obviously on legend and below, or just if you're getting books, you're going to be putting on curse resistance, and I would prioritize stamina recovery. But actually I would say on Cataclysm, I would actually prefer running movement speed and stamina recovery, because I feel like that added 5% mobility really makes a difference when you, like me, like to get really over-aggressive with the Trollhammer Torpedo. There's gonna be some friendly fire here and there, but the most important thing about the Trollhammer Torpedo are actually 2 things. First of all, when you read it in the armory and you're reading the armor damage here, this is not accurate. I mean, it's the right number that's stated there, but the area damage is really where you're gonna get your DPS from in this context. So despite the fact that it says I can only deal 50 armor damage, in the armory, really, you can deal a lot more. That was a pathetic shot. There we go. Also, it's really important, every time you take a shot with the Trollhammer Torpedo, it's really important. You need to double tap R. So you should shoot RR. That's going to reduce the animation time of your reload, as I've talked about many times before. There's a huge difference, especially these long reload weapons. It can easily be the difference between getting in that reload, swapping weapons, and sort of missing the reload, having to perform it all over again from scratch. So make sure you would at the very least try to get used to that, because it's a mechanic that you use for crossbows, handguns, repeater guns. There's a bunch of weapons where this is a useful effect to learn, so I would definitely recommend that you just get used to it. It takes a little while, but try the best you can to remember it. So I don't know if you guys can hear the clicking, just quick double tap. That way you're almost guaranteed to hit the correct window and sort of cut the animation short. What else did we have? Yeah, so this is the build I would go for personally in quick play, but again, you can vary it as you like, but this is what I would be going for. This is how I enjoy playing him. What else did we have? I feel like there's something that I've missed. Oh yeah, super important. Shrapnel and explosive ordnance both get applied to the Trollhammer Torpedo shots, so pick whichever you prefer. I personally would go for shrapnel in this context, but that's just me. An argument could be made for explosive ordnance as well. Just keep in mind that that actually affects the Trollhammer Torpedo. I like to go for Scrounger. You could go for Headshot Replenish as well, depending on how good you are at sort of at getting that aim in, but I feel like Scrounger is going to be the more consistent, even though it is rare that you get a crit. I do feel like you're gonna get that more often than with the headshots, but that's up to you. If you don't have the new DLC for ranged weapons, really pretty much anything goes here. It's actually one of the few heroes where I look at all the ranged weapons and I'd say technically anything goes here. I actually mean that. I would not personally go for the Grudgebreaker. I'd say someone who knew what they were doing would very likely, if they weren't going for the Trollhammer, they'd be going for either the handgun or possibly the crossbow. The crossbow being the slightly lighter, more versatile pick, but also it's less consistent, right? The handgun, you pull it out, you take that one shot, and you know the special dies. It's accurate at long ranges, and that's really what you need it to be, right? That's what you need it for. Whereas, yeah, with the crossbow, you have a slightly shorter reload, but if you don't headshot, you don't always get the kill, and it also struggles on sort of longer distances. I'm not a huge fan of the Masterwork pistol on the Ironbreaker specifically. I think the handgun is actually better here, because I feel like with the Masterwork pistol, you're going to be focusing on the wrong thing. But yeah, also, yeah, again, go for the direct fire if you want to. I don't think it's very strong, but go for it if you want to. It is a lot of fun, and that counts as well. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Now, on top of that, I thought we would add just a little bit of gameplay. I didn't want to add a whole game here, because I feel like the Ironbreaker, in some situations, it can be a bit stale to sort of watch his gameplay, because a lot of the time you're taunting, blocking, But really, I was playing a very active sort of Ironbreaker in instance. I nearly managed to deal the most damage. I was trying to, let's be real. That's what you're going to be doing in quick play. Let's be honest, right? So it's about finding the balance between having fun with the Trollhammer Torpedo and sort of feeling like you're actually having a direct damage impact, but also when shit hits the fan, when you get bosses, pull patrols, then your primary focus should be to make sure that you can create space for your team, that you're in the right position to sort of give them the room as well to be able to deal the DPS that they need to deal. So we're going to be watching 2 clips here, the first being from a Cataclysm quick play, Live Reaper, obviously. Secondly, we're going to be looking at near clutch. We were doing a Cata Deed. They had no respawn, and I tried to solo the end event of Athalie and Louis, and yeah, that gets interesting. But anyways, let's take a look here. So at the moment, you know, nothing too much happening, nice and chill. Then we notice that a patrol has been pulled. At least. Immediately, starting with the Trollhammer Torpedo, making sure I get in the reload. And that also puts shrapnel on, throwing my firebomb. Both, like, combining bombs and firebombs with the Trollhammer Torpedo is great. That's gonna put, like, a bunch of those sort of outer thorn vermins that you may not hit, that may not be in the center of the area damage of your Trollhammer shots. They're going to be more susceptible to dying because they still get shrapnel applied. Then you throw the firebomb to sort of just get them that last bit, or a normal bomb, doesn't matter. With a couple of shots from the Trollhammer Torpedo, you can, especially if you have a strength pot, you can like take out a whole thorn vermin patrol in no time. Again, I was trying to play fast here, but the moment I noticed, oh shit, trouble. Fortunately, I couldn't get there in time for the save the elf. But I also noticed that Armless Noobstar, he had very low AP. This is when things start to get, you know, just a little bit dicey, right? This is where it's your job to actually create the space needed, make sure that you all make it through. Now, I did not intend to hit that lane ball, but I decided to just go straight for the kill here. Fortunately, I ran out of ammunition, which kill. Again, choosing to stick close to the team here. So I decided, by not having any curse, I decided to go for a Grim, just because if you're playing the Ironbreaker, you should definitely be the person who picks up a Grimoire. If anyone's gonna pick it up, it should be you. Comes with the job description, so to speak. Knew that there was an assassin drop there. Hadn't actually seen the assassin, but I heard it in that direction, and that was more based off just experience regarding where specials actually come from. You know, it could have come from the front as well, but the reason I stopped right there was in case it dropped down from.
Strangler dies now.
And nothing. Here, just base. A little bit greedy here with my DPS. Here's a great example. Here I'm actually about to get grabbed. Got slightly thrown off by a banner, but you see, I realized in a moment later, oh yeah, I don't have to worry because of the Ironbreaker. Right? So it doesn't matter. Nothing to worry about. Here to try to create some space so that they can DPS the Storm Fiend, which is already dead, so you know that didn't take long. The ammo, whenever you have infinite ammo, that's when you just go nuts with your troll hammering. Do the double R movement in between each shot to get that reload time down a little bit.
Doesn't pay to be your friend, does it?
In the end event was pretty straightforward. Too fancy. And just a regular kata, but you see, I felt like I have a decent impact here. Fair amount of special skills, if you consider the fact that I was playing with the Trollhammer Torpedo. Again, that's also what I was going for, right? If you compare it to, like, Elf in terms of elite skill, I think that's a pretty decent amount, right? What I'm trying to say is, it is entirely possible to both play him proactively and sort of feel like you have a direct impact, while still being that frontliner to some degree, right? Using your ulti, creating that space for your team where you can just block if you need to. And you also have clutch potential with the dual hammers because you have enough movement speed that you can roughly around here. Let's give it a little bit of a watch from here. Feel that the Foot Knight caught up here. I see Inna. I'm out of ammo because I was playing way too aggressively with the Trollhammer Torpedo again. Trying to push forward into the tunnel. Up here there's obviously plenty of ammo, so I'm just, you know, taking my liberties. Just around here? Yeah, around here. When things really started to go sideways. And there was no respawn, which kind of complicated things a little bit, not gonna lie. Whew. Timing. But again, that's the great thing about the Ironbreaker. So we push forward a little bit further here. I think from around here is good. Showcases a little bit of interesting movement. Using the map, trying not to aggro the Stormvermin Patrol. This is not the time to fight a Stormvermin Patrol if it was at all avoidable. And again, because I don't play him so much, I didn't have any amazing clutch footage of me playing the Ironbreaker. So this is the closest we were gonna get. Without me having to play way too many games, more than I want. Again, not because he's not fun, but he's not one of my main characters right now. The only reason normally I would have just immediately left that person there in this situation, but because there was no respawn, I really wanted to get him up. I think I kind of knew here that my odds were not that great. Let's be real. I think this is my first ever attempt to true solo the end event, 𝒮𝔞𝔤𝔢𝔯𝔞𝔡, on a dwarf. Done it many times on many other classes, but never on a dwarf. Of course, it doesn't help that the elites have double damage either. Yeah, making sure to get in that shot reload. Here is where the 5% movement speed really come into play. it's sort of what allowed me to keep the mobility up. Boom. I did kind of cheat a little bit here at the end, not gonna lie. Too lazy to fight all that stuff, so I tried to gather a little bit, you know, took a few shots with the Trollhammer Torpedo, cleared out the worst, and then I went for the end event. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit salty because I was actually given an opportunity by the game, okay? I could have actually made this, if not for one fateful shot that I completely blew up. Eventually 2 assassins spawned. And I overshot my mark, missing both assassins. Just want to rewatch myself here. The trick to soloing this event is simply just taking it step by step, little by little. That's easier said than done when you're an Ironbreaker, but nonetheless, it is doable. And using the Kong Pod, I can block infinitely, so as long as there aren't too many specials present. Of course, there are right now. This is the shot that I'm about to fight there. I overshot it. Oh, that really bothered me. That was so close. That was where lack of experience with the Trollhammer Torpedo came into play. Right in between. Panic taunt. I think I knew at this point that it wasn't gonna happen. But yeah. Anyways, that's all I had for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize if there were any audio issues throughout the video, but I was fiddling with my OBS audio settings in order to hopefully in the future improve a couple of things. So, but I accidentally, after changing my sound input, I forgot to set that separate input to not get mixed together with my desktop input, which meant they were mixed together, so I couldn't change the sound levels of the, like, between my game and me talking. I couldn't sort of separate them, right? So regardless, that's not important. I just hope you guys enjoyed today's video and learned something new. It's always like double the effort when I make a dwarf video for some reason, but it was the most upvoted class, so that's the one we made. So yeah, let me know down in the comments which class you guys would like me to see next. I think it's gonna be Unchained, but which one are we gonna do after that? I don't know. Only time will tell. Also, Javelin Elf video coming out real soon. And as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out. The Undertaker, Grudge Raker, Ironbreaker, the Dildozer.